What's up, everybody? The Twitter files continue to drop bombs coming from Matt Taibbi, given to him by Elon Musk, who, he's a sociopath billionaire with a lot of issues. But in this regard, the fact that he's revealing how Twitter used to work is kind of enjoyable. It's fun to watch, you know? So this is you don't have to love Elon Musk to understand that it's beautiful to see these operations that we have been lied to about. Sorry for the multiple prepositions in a row. We've been lied to about for years, and in this case, it yet another. This is honestly this is like I'd say tent pole number 39 of RussiaGate to collapse, even though most people knew they were fake. Russiagate was fake, but this is yet another one. We finally see the documents. I got the documents. We finally see the documents, and sure enough, this one fucking all lies too. This is not just about Russiagate, the Twitter files, and these are newer ones. I know I did a segment on what had been revealed a week ago or 2 weeks ago. This just came out the other day. But yeah, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into what these files reveal about our intelligence agencies, their connection to Twitter. It continues to be pretty mind-blowing, even though many people, I think, assumed it. But still, there's a difference from assuming it and seeing it, knowing it. On top of that, you have even one of the biggest mainstream media outlets out there admitting, investigating, and revealing that police are using COVID-19 tech to expand global surveillance. I'm going to get into that, meaning the tracking tech, obviously, to track people outside of just what the tracking that was connected to COVID-19. And I know everybody must be shocked that our government would use tracking techniques that were supposed to be for good, that were supposed to help the peoples. And now they're being used to, track activists, track innocent people. Anyway, I'll be getting into that and more. So hang in there. Let's just fucking do this. Let's just fucking do it. All right. So these are files that Elon Musk, again, billionaire sociopath. That's not the point. But he's allowed access to certain reporters to reveal. So it's kind of a leak. It's kind of a leak, except that Elon Musk owns the thing, but kind of seems like a leak. So Matt Taibbi and other journalists have gone through these files, and here's the latest one that Taibbi is revealing, and it tells us something about Russiagate and other connections with the military-industrial complex. The intelligence complex. So he says, and again, I'm not covering everything Taibbi did because it's a lot, but I just highlighted some. But so he says foreign meddling had been the ostensible justification for expanded moderation since platforms like Twitter were dragged to the hill by the Senate in 2017. And I noticed someone in the comments said, who gives a fuck? They're a private company. They can do what they want. Well, actually, no. What we're talking about is not them being a private company. It's the government going to Twitter and saying, here's how you're going to behave. That's not private. But on top of that, I actually think that whole argument about it's a private company, they can do what they want. No, it's our fucking country. We the people, right? And corporations should not be allowed to just destroy everyone's lives. But we can get more into that another time. I've gotten into it many times before. Yeah, they're a private company. They should be able to ream you in the ass anytime they want because they're private. Doesn't fucking matter. All right. It shouldn't matter. Okay. So foreign meddling was their justification for moderation, right? So Russiagate comes along, and we now know it's been, and for those of you who don't know, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Biden supporter. I know that I know, and hopefully you know that both parties are a fucking rigged game. So me not being a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter does not mean that I don't understand Russiagate was ridiculous and a hoax on every level. It really wasn't that hard to see if you have a functioning brainstem. You just kind of actually look at what the evidence is, as opposed to just listening to MSNBC go, oh my God, Russia hacked the elections. And, I spent years, literally years, breaking down every different way that the Russiagate hoax was fucking put through. I mean, you can call it a lot of things. You can call it a hoax, you can call it a conspiracy theory, but it was put forward by our neoliberal establishment to do multiple things. One, yes, to malign and stop Trump, but also to shut down social media, because they knew that the reason that, yes, Trump, again, I'm not a Trump fan, not a Biden fan, but they knew that the reason Trump was able to win that election was because of social media. I mean, yes, that wasn't the only reason, but that was a large percentage of it. And it's the reason Bernie Sanders nearly won the primaries. He should have won the primaries. And if he had, he would have been president. So Bernie Sanders nearly became president, except they rigged the primaries enough to stop him. And the reason that would have happened, if it hadn't been rigged, is because of social media. So, and I've talked about this before, there was a wonderful window of actual free flow of information on the internet, where people both had fast, reliable internet in almost all homes, most homes, and many phones. Combined with, it was largely not being suppressed unless you were putting forward, straight up, let's go kill this guy kind of messaging. But outside of that, it was basically not being moderated. I've been saying the same shit that I say, both parties are corrupt, capitalism is a death spiral. I've been saying all those things for years now. And during this prime window was when I actually had more viral content. I had content that could gain easy 100,000 views, 200,000 quickly. Then they shut it all down in 2016. Well, how did they decide and defend shutting it all down? Fucking Russiagate, right? Oh, well, the Russians were doing things, so we got to stop everybody from being able to speak the truth. That's how they did it. So it wasn't just stopping Trump. A lot of people think that, Russiagate was just to harm Trump. No, Russiagate was designed to shut down the openness of social media so that many of these things can't happen. Not just Trump, but a Bernie Sanders type candidate cannot happen again. It was used for all those things. All right, so Taibbi says, foreign meddling was, Twitter and the others were dragged in front of Congress to defend themselves. Here's the New York Times headline from the time. Tech executives are contrite about election meddling, but make few promises on Capitol Hill. So Congress dragged them in front of the Capitol Hill, and the tech execs said, oh, yeah, that Russian meddling, we're so sorry about that. We're gonna fix that right now. Oh, man. But what you're about to see is pretty amazing to actually see, again, the proof. If you were bright at all, if you were ever good at putting the right shaped block into the shaped hole with that thing in kindergarten, if you were able to do that, if you're able to do that now, then you knew Russiagate was ridiculous. So Matt Taibbi continues, behind the scenes, Twitter executives struggled against government claims of foreign interference supposedly occurring on their platform and others. Now, why did they struggle? Because they couldn't find any. They were like, well, let me read a little before I get into that. But the Twitter files show execs at Twitter under constant pressure to validate theories, conspiracy theories much, theories of foreign influence, and unable to find evidence for key assertions. Think about what this fucking means. This means that our government and our mainstream media have spent years sitting there going, oh my God, Russia, they rigged Twitter, they rigged Facebook, they rigged it all. And here now we're seeing the evidence that they couldn't find any evidence. They could like Twitter execs are trying to make Congress happy. Why would they try to make Congress happy and not just go, hey, folks, there's nothing fucking there. There's no Russian interference, because they don't want to be broken up or have whatever other regulation thrown against them. So they're trying to go to Congress. They're trying to go to the government and say, hey, listen, we have stopped that Russian interference thing. We are so sorry that happened. But they couldn't find any. So they're so behind closed doors, these are private emails. They're basically saying like, well, it's not really anything. There's no there. That famous quote, there's no there. 30 in his 34th, these are listed by tweet, because I think part of Elon Musk's rules for giving Taibbi and others these documents was you have to report on it on Twitter. So that means the entire article is like fucking one sentence at a time, which is the dumbest shit in the world. Stupid garbage fucking platform rule shit pile fucking okay. Anyway, here's a quote from a Twitter exec. Found no links to Russia, says one analyst, but suggests he could brainstorm to find a stronger connection. Think about what that means. We couldn't find Russian interference. We can't even find a connection from this tweet to Russia, but I will brainstorm. I will sit here with other very smart people, and we'll try and come up with a way that this has anything to do with Russia. That's what they're saying behind closed doors at Twitter. Then they next say, quote, extremely tenuous circumstantial chance of being related, says another. Not being related to Russia rigging elections, mind you, just being related to Russia at all. Like, that's how pathetic they're. I mean, so basically they're being sent things that could be connected to the Russian government so that it can be proven that the Russian government was using Twitter and Facebook, other social media platforms to rig the election in favor of Trump, right? That was the conspiracy theory. And right now I am using that term to be like, you fucking idiots with your dumb theories. That was the conspiracy theory that the entire neoliberal and when I use neoliberal, I also mean neocons. They're one and the same. So anybody who hears me say neoliberal and think I only mean the Democrats, no. The neoliberal establishment includes most Republicans. So, but so they go to Twitter and they say, well, you know, the intelligence community says, oh, what about these tweets and these tweets? And so here Twitter is behind closed doors again. These are private emails saying, we looked into it, didn't find any exact naming matches and really any information to link Reddit accounts to any on-platform presence at Twitter. So I guess they must have been sent Reddit accounts that were promoting that were Russian promoting Trump, maybe something like that. And basically they were sent those Reddit accounts and said, if you can show that these people were tweeting about their Reddit profiles or posts, then that would be a connection to Russia. The government, the country, not even, it's still not saying Putin or something or the Kremlin did it. And then they say there was one account that has an incredibly tenuous circumstantial chance of being related. Holy shit. There is nothing of a nothing behind this. And you know, you also have to think about the fact that, like, even if at the end they had found some Russian connection, the fact that they were even doing this, sending stuff that had no connection to Russia and being like, what about this? Does this work? Can we pretend this has to do with Russia? Just the fact that they were doing that, why would you do that? Unless you were trying to create something. You're trying to create an idea of something. And that's not what our government is supposed to do, right? Try and create an idea of an election rigged by a foreign entity. Next, he says, no real matches using the info, unquote, says former trust and safety chief Yoel Roth in another case, noting some links were clearly Russian, but another was a house rental in South Carolina. By clearly Russian, he means clearly a Russian person. That doesn't mean it's the Russian government. So even if you found that there were a bunch of Russian tweeters, in order to say that it somehow rigged the election, you'd have to say that influence campaign was all connected. You have to prove that, and then was connected to the Russian government. None of that has been proven, even slightly. And here they are behind closed doors going, we fucking got nothing. We got nothing here. In another case, Roth concludes a series of Venezuelan. So then outside of just Russiagate, they're also banning other types of accounts. In another case, Roth concludes a series of Venezuelan pro-Maduro accounts are unrelated to Russia's Internet Research Agency. So, quick reminder, the Internet Research Agency was the company that the U.S. said, oh, here it is. Here's proof that Russia rigged the election. This Internet Research Agency, the IRA, not connected to Ireland, they're the proof that this happened. Now, what they were able to prove is that the IRA, Internet Research Agency, from St. Petersburg, had paid for a bunch of ads on Facebook. However, Facebook revealed in the days when this first was starting, and then they tried to cover it up, but the top ad executive at Facebook said that 56% of all those ads revealed were after the election. Okay, so you can't influence an election after it's happened. So 56% were after the election. Of the ones that were before the election, the average spent on each one was $3, which, if you know anything about Facebook boosting and posting, $3 will get you seen by roughly 0.01 people. $3 is nothing in Facebook money. So the average spend is $3. And then if you actually look at what the posts are, most of them do not clearly push for Trump or anything else. One of them's the photo of Bernie Sanders in a banana hammock. I don't know how that was going to make you vote for Trump. You see Bernie Sanders with his cock out, and you're like, I got to vote for Trump because that shit. Not clear on how that works. But so you take all of those things and you go, how does that prove Russia rigged this election? But then on top of that, the Mueller investigation, Mueller indicted 14 people from that troll farm, that clickbait farm in St. Petersburg, indicted 14 people thinking that they were never going to come to America to fight those charges. So they could just be tried in absentia and found guilty of doing all this shit. Unfortunately, they hired lawyers in America. And once they had lawyers in court representing them, the judge threw it out because there was nothing there. So, or it was about to throw it out. And Mueller ultimately, on a Friday when no one was looking, dropped all the indictments. So Mueller couldn't even indict these people for what he said he was going to because he dropped all the indictments. So that's the Internet Research Agency. So obviously when they were coming to Facebook and saying, you guys, the IRA paid for all these ads that got Trump elected, they must have also been going to Twitter and saying, did the IRA do shit on Twitter? I bet they did. Oh my God, tell us about all the things they did on Twitter. But here's the Twitter exec concluding a series of Venezuelan pro-Maduro accounts are unrelated to Russia's IRA, Internet Research Agency, because they're too high volume and other reasons. But so basically they're trying to find connections to IRA. Then the Venezuelans, quote, were extremely high volume tweeters, pretty uncharacteristic of a lot of the other IRA activity, unquote. In a key email news that the State Department was making a wobbly public assertion of Russian influence, led an exec, the same one with the OGA past. OGA, he explains earlier, basically is the CIA. It's people don't want to say CIA in these documents, so they say the other government agency, OGA. So there's a Twitter exec who is former CIA, which that's always great to know. So a Twitter exec who's former CIA says, quote, in his private email, due to a lack of technical evidence on our end, I've generally left it be, waiting for more evidence. Our window on that is closing, given that the government partners are becoming more aggressive on attribution. So this is a former CIA guy working at Twitter saying, we've kind of done everything we can to try and find a connection to Russia, and we just can't find anything. And even though I'm former CIA, we just don't have much more we can make up here. Taibbi says, translation, more aggressive government partners had closed Twitter's window of independence. Other government agencies, meaning CIA, ended up sharing intelligence through the FBI, not just with Twitter, but with Yahoo, Twitch, Cloudflare, LinkedIn, even Wikimedia. Former CIA agent whistleblower John Kiriakou believes he recognizes the formatting of the reports as coming from the CIA. Many people wonder if internet platforms receive direction from intelligence agencies about moderation of foreign policy news stories. It appears Twitter did, in some cases, by way of FITF or the FBI. So this is proof that the CIA, at times at least, is directing Twitter as to what should be allowed on Twitter. And again, this is not a shock to those of us who, like me, saw all of our stuff being shadow banned, could barely get anyone to see our tweets. It's not shocking. I mean, it's probably seeing how this actually helps explain why I'm the most censored comedian in the world. Not in the world. Very much not in the world. In America. In other countries, there are comedians in prison, and I'm sure some have been assassinated. So, not in the world. In America. Currently. But if this much interaction is going on between Twitter and the CIA and FBI, and they're literally just sending floods of lists of people who are pro-Maduro, which, God forbid, an elected president of Venezuela, oh my God, someone's pro-Maduro, pro-Cuba, it also says, oh, God forbid, a country that has socialism and zero homelessness and a better healthcare system than the United States and zero joblessness, zero unemployment, and God forbid you be pro-Cuba. That really is horrific. So if they're doing that to Twitter, you've got to assume they're, of course, doing the same thing to YouTube, which is a Google property now, right? So YouTube is Google. Google is our government. Google, even in the early days, was partially funded by In-Q-Tel, CIA's investment capital arm. So, of course, they're doing it to YouTube as well. And that would explain why my channel, was banned globally and why I've been suppressed even before we were banned globally. Really, the banning globally was just the final execution of a dying dog. I mean, they had shadow banned our channel into oblivion. So we put up a video and, like a 1,000 people would see it. So it was already hidden from view for most people. So it really, it was a sad diseased dog, and then they shot it in the head. But clearly, if this much interaction is going on between Twitter and the CIA, it seems you can just assume that the same amount is going on with YouTube, a Google arm. Let's see. One Intel report lists accounts tied to Ukraine neo-Nazi propaganda. That includes assertion that Joe Biden helped orchestrate a coup in 2014 and put his son on the board of Burisma. So, again, those are not really conspiracy theories. I mean, yes, I suppose you could argue over the words "put his son." I mean, it's quite possible Burisma just hired Hunter Biden because they knew they could use his name to gain corrupt situations, which is what they did. I don't know how much Joe Biden had to actively put his son on the board of Burisma, an oil company in Ukraine. But Joe Biden did help make sure the prosecutor looking into Burisma in Ukraine was fired. But so this next part that I just read is saying that they're banning accounts simply for revealing what is true about connections between Ukrainian government and neo-Nazis, connections between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma, the oil company in Ukraine. They're banning accounts for reporting true news here. And again, he talks a bunch about being anti-Ukraine. It could be enough to get you shadow banned or fully banned. But anti-Ukraine is defined as being revealing the truth about Ukraine, which is also an anti-war stance, right? The reason I've done videos about the neo-Nazis in Ukraine and about how much the U.S. helped create this proxy war which former CIA head Leon Panetta calls it a proxy war as well. The reason I do those is not because I'm anti-Ukraine or anti-Russia or pro-Ukraine or pro-Russia. I'm pro-peace. I'm opposed to people dying for this stupid shit. So they call it anti-Ukraine, but in fact, it's anti-U.S. propaganda is what it is. And if you're anti-U.S. propaganda, this is showing you could get shadow. You could have gotten shadow banned. I don't know how much of these policies, honestly, are changing now that Elon Musk is in power. Maybe some of them, maybe not. One intel report. I did that one. Another report asserts a list of accounts accusing Biden administration of corruption in vaccine distribution are part of a Russian influence campaign. So now, see, and that's ridiculous in multiple regards. Of course, the Biden administration is corrupt, just as all U.S. governments are nowadays. But on top of that, Twitter is accusing those people who accuse Biden administration of corruption. Twitter is saying, "Oh, that's a Russian influence campaign." Well, no, it's just people saying something. It doesn't have to be a Russian influence campaign to say Biden's corrupt. They're like, "Oh, must be Russia." That's what that is. Often intelligence came in the form of brief reports, followed by long lists of accounts simply deemed to be pro-Maduro, pro-Cuba, pro-Russia, etc., or anti-Ukraine. This one batch had over 1,000 accounts marked for digital execution. This is our CIA and our FBI sending Twitter thousands of accounts to be banned or shadow banned because they're pro-Maduro, pro-Cuba, pro-Russia, which could be just be anti-war. Unbelievable, and yet many of you go, "Oh yeah, I guess I knew that. I guess I had suspected that for a long time." One report says a site documenting purported rights abuses committed by Ukrainians is directed by Russian agents, when of course just damn it. How do I get out of that? Okay. Oh, it's a new tab. I'm an idiot. All right. Which of course you could be giving the rights abuses of Ukrainian Nazis, and it doesn't make you a Russian agent. It just makes you someone who likes truth and facts and things. The intel about the shady origin of these accounts might be true, but so might at least some of the information in them about neo-Nazis, rights abuses in Donbass, even about our own government. Should we block such material? So let's say hypothetically, let's say a Russian citizen, I'm not talking Russian government, just a Russian dude, Russian citizen in Russia, tweets something that says that Ukraine has a neo-Nazi battalion called the Azov Battalion. So that is a true tweet being tweeted by a Russian citizen. Should that be banned? Are we saying now that a Russian person doesn't have the right to tweet? And are we saying now that they should be banned for tweeting the truth? But even if they tweeted something false, are we saying that people should be banned for tweeting something false? Because a lot of people are fucking idiots. I mean, a lot of people believe CNN and Fox News and all this garbage. So if you believe this garbage and you go and tweet it, you're tweeting something false. Should that account get banned? I mean, these are important questions, because if we're banning people for tweeting something false, I think about 75% of Twitter needs to go. Elon Musk has tweeted multiple provably false things. Donald Trump tweeted false things all the time. Like, tweeting something false is not generally not deemed to be a bannable offense. Then you got WikiLeaks that has been shadow banned for tweeting only the truth. Nothing WikiLeaks has ever printed has been proven false. That got them shadow banned. And so Taibbi then says it's a difficult speech dilemma. Should the government be allowed to try to prevent Americans and others from seeing pro-Maduro or anti-Ukrainian accounts? And he's using the term anti-Ukrainian, but I don't view it as anti-Ukrainian. That could be anti-war. Like if you're revealing truth about the Ukraine proxy war, that's can be anti-war. Yes, someone could be anti-Ukrainian, but when I tweet truth about that, I'm tweeting anti-war facts. I want people to know the truth about what's going on in this proxy war so that they can stand up and fight back against the fact that the U.S. wants this war to continue as long as possible. The U.S. wants to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. I'm doing it out of a place of wanting fewer people to die. Often intel reports are just long lists of newspapers, tweets, or YouTube videos guilty of anti-Ukraine narratives. I mean, this truly is unbelievable. Just our intelligence community, our government sending Twitter thousands of just this video is anti-Ukraine. Take it down, ban it, block it. Sometimes, not always, Twitter and YouTube blocked the accounts. The line between misinformation and distorting propaganda is thin. Are we comfortable with so many companies receiving so many reports from more aggressive government? So that pretty much concludes it. But I mean, this shows you what many of us believed and many of us were saying, and we were called, some people called us paranoid, some people called us conspiracy theorists, some people called us whatever, million other little names that were not allowed on Saturday morning cartoons. And here's the truth. And yet again, I and so many other independent journalists are proven right when the facts finally come out, right? This happens again and again and again and again, right? WMD and chemical weapons in Syria. You have the whistleblowers of the OPCW revealing the truth about that. You have the fucking remember the Cuban acoustic attack? Turned out to be crickets, literal crickets. And all of these things that I say, and people go, no, that's ridiculous. Mainstream media said this. And then sure enough, you see the facts come out later, and you go, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's true. But of course, this gets ignored. The reality gets ignored. The truth gets ignored. So these reports get very little coverage by our mainstream media. I did see one or two mainstream media articles reporting on these Twitter file reports by Taibbi and others. And those mainstream media reports say, oh, no, it's nothing. It's just so the FBI asked Twitter to take a few accounts down. No, it's the mass censorship of anti-U.S. empire propaganda. If you stand up against propaganda, you have a strong chance of being banned, shadow banned, so many other things. So, hopefully this stops at Twitter. I don't know that it will. I mean, we'll see what Musk does, but all right. I probably went too long on that one, but I'm about to get to the AP, the Associated Press, actually admitting that police are using COVID-19 tracking tech to track, for global surveillance, to track individuals unrelated to COVID-19. I'm about to get to that story. I just wanted to take a quick pause for a moment and say that we'll give you a little bit of a schedule. So obviously there's this live stream right now, but there will probably not be anything tomorrow. I will be live streaming on Wednesday and Friday per usual. Wednesday at rumble.com/Lee Camp, Friday at leecamp.net. And then the Saturday one will again not be happening because it's like New Year's Day or something. So no live stream Saturday. There will also not be a Most Censored News episode this week because of holidays and the such. So I just want to give you that update. So if you see certain things missing, I apologize. But it's just been the scheduling and everything. Should be speaking to Katie Halper, though, on Thursday for the interview. That will be at youtube.com/behind the headlines. And if you feel like you got $1 worth of content, I hope you'll sign up at leecamp.net. That's the only way I keep this thing going. Leecamp.net will forward you to my locals account. Also, if you're at Rumble, you can just click that red button that says locals. It's in your upper, I think, right-hand side of your screen. Just click that. It'll take you straight to my page, my locals page. And you can join it for free. So actually, if everybody would just do that to begin with, join it for free. You won't get all the content, but you'll get some of it. And I hope you'll do that so that I can keep this show going, keep my live streams going. And the other thing is right now it's $5 a month. It's come the new year, it's going to go up to $6 a month. So, but if you sign up right now, you will be kept at $5 a month. So sign up right now and save a bit. But yes, it'll soon be $6 a month starting in the new year. And yeah, let's move on. Let's keep it going. I was pretty amazed to see this from the mainstream media. AP is obviously standard neoliberal garbage. In fact, it's where many of our neoliberal outlets get their neoliberal garbage. Again, folks, when I say neoliberal, I mean neocon and neoliberal. They're pretty much one and the same at this point. Endless war, environmental destruction, death to any country that dares threaten our dollar hegemony, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so this article just came out. Police seize on COVID-19 tech, meaning COVID-19 tracking tech, to expand global surveillance. And this is another one. This is another story, just like the last one. This is another story where the moment they said, hey, we're going to use COVID-19 to track everybody, any country, it doesn't really matter which one, but when they said that, you go, okay, even if I agreed with that, do I think that the moment the COVID-19's over, pandemic's over, or whatever, you're going to stop using this technology? Is that, do I believe that you're going to hang up the tools like, oh, tough day at the office, going to put that away on that hook and never use it again? It's not really how just any governments work. It's not really how that works. But all right, so they give an individual example to start off, so I'm just skipping the individual example. But the feared internal security agency, this is in Israel, Shin Bet, was using mass surveillance technology mobilized for coronavirus contact tracing against Israeli residents and citizens for purposes entirely unrelated to COVID-19. So they start off in Israel saying Israel is using their COVID-19 tracking tech that many people signed up for. So I think the people signed up for willingly to say, oh yeah, I want to deal with the pandemic. I want to get a text if the government finds out that I was near somebody with COVID. And so I guess that's how it worked. And so these people, many of them signed up for this thing. And then of course it's being used for non-COVID activities, which I'm sure is shocking many of you. Honestly, the thing I find most shocking about all this is that the AP is covering it. In the pandemic's bewildering early days, millions worldwide believed government officials who said they needed confidential data for new tech tools that could help stop coronavirus's spread. In return, governments got a fire hose of individuals' private health details, photographs that captured their facial measurements and their home addresses. Jesus Christ, facial measurements. Now, from Beijing to Jerusalem to Hyderabad, India, and Perth, Australia, the Associated Press has found that authorities use these technologies and data to halt travel for activists and ordinary people. They're not even talking about COVID activists. They're talking about activists like fighting oil pipelines and shit. And ordinary people harass marginalized communities and link people's health information to other surveillance and law enforcement tools. In some cases, data was shared with spy agencies. And now we get to the part where we find out why the AP is allowed to do this story, right? I always like that moment where you're like, wow, the mainstream media is covering this. Why is the mainstream media covering this? And then you slowly get to a point and you're like, oh, The reason the AP is allowed to do the story is because you notice who they leave out? The United States and the UK. So basically, you're allowed to say governments, dirty, dirty governments, are using tracking tech that was honed and perfected during COVID-19. They're using it to track people unrelated to COVID-19. You're allowed to say that in the mainstream media as long as you leave the US empire and maybe also the UK out of it. So they did not say the US, even though, of course, the US is going to, like, you think the US government, Snowden proved we have one of the largest surveillance systems in the world. Do you think the US is like, well, we can't use the stuff we used for COVID? Absolutely not. That would be untoward. That would be not appropriate for our ethical behavior. We can't use those tools. Nay, sir. Nay, I say. And by the way, this article focuses, as it goes on, heavily on China, which I'm not going to deny China is tracking people and it's way overboard. But I like how this article is like countries around the world, China. And then they were like, China. So basically, that's the only way you could actually do an article like this for the mainstream media is if you leave the U.S. completely out of it and you then focus on how China's evil. But still, this you can read this and know that the U.S. is the same. Of course, they're using any ability they got during COVID-19, they're using now for other things. For more than a year, AP journalists interviewed sources and pored over thousands of documents to trace how technologies marketed to flatten the curve, quote unquote, were put to other uses. Just as the balance between privacy and national security shifted after September 11 terrorist attacks, the priorities shifted. They didn't just shift. This is called the ruling elite using a crisis in order to get what they already wanted. So in both cases, they mentioned 9/11. In both cases, 9/11 and COVID-19, they were able to use it for a bunch of things. The $1 trillion giveaways, for one, to Wall Street. But they were able to use it to enhance surveillance of citizens in Israel, in Australia, in the U.S. They use it's in many ways it's a shock doctrine. You use any catastrophe to get what they already wanted, and they do this again and again and again. In sometimes it's more localized. So like after Katrina, they used it to steal the property that they already wanted. So if it was poor Black neighborhoods that they wanted to get rid of so they could put in expensive high rises and things, they did that after Katrina hit and flooded New Orleans. If it was to get rid of public schools that were in flooded areas and put in charter schools, they did that. Bush was heavily involved in the charter schoolerization of New Orleans, and they do these things that they already wanted, and they just wait for a catastrophe. Now, yes, some of these catastrophes can be fostered or furthered or enhanced by the government. Like they can fail to do anything. After Katrina, if they had helped save everybody and helped make sure they weren't destroyed financially, then those people wouldn't have had to get rid of their homes or move out of New Orleans or all those things. But of course, they didn't do that. So the government is furthering. They're taking, even when it's a natural disaster, they're furthering the crisis, which they can then use to steal the land, heavily surveil you, whatever. That's the part of this. That's the second or third layer of this reality that the AP will never tell you. This is not a new game. It is a game that our ruling elite have done for a long time. You wait for a disaster, you use that disaster to get whatever you wanted. where was I? Any intervention that increases state power. This is a quote. So this is a quote from a senior researcher at the Toronto-based internet watchdog Citizen Lab. Any intervention that increases state power to monitor individuals has a long tail and is a ratcheting system. Once you get it, it is very unlikely it will ever go away. And that's true again and again and again. They never put away the tools that they grab. They never, as the unitary executive in the U.S. has grabbed more and more power, has one of them ever gotten in office and say, hey, I'm giving back that power. I shouldn't have it. For example, the power to have endless war. Technically, Congress is supposed to declare war. Technically. But Congress hasn't declared a war since, Vietnam? So they don't anymore. So the unitary executive, the president, has stolen that power to basically go to war and largely ignores Congress. Occasionally they'll have a vote on something, but for the most part ignores Congress. And did they ever give those powers back? No. They will never give back a power. Obama said they were going to, when the Snowden revelations came out, said, we're going to decrease surveillance. They never did. They claimed they cut down on this or that, but it was basically stuff they weren't using, stuff they didn't need anyway. They didn't decrease surveillance. So these powers are never given back. And this is a rare insight by mainstream media, proving, again, independent journalists right, mainstream media journalists wrong. And this happens constantly, that we are proven right, as I just went through with the Twitter files. We don't always have the proof. You can just know. You just know that when our government, which is a inverted totalitarian structure, is ruled by the corporate state, when our government says we need this power or that power, we want to search you at the airports or whatever, they're never going to give any of that back once the scary moment is over. Never. And so we knew this, but here it is. You have some reporting from a mainstream media outlet saying exactly what we said, except the reason they were able to write this report is they left the U.S. out of it. They say, it's just Australia and Israel and China. They're the only ones doing the tracking. But anyway, for those of you who've been trying to tell your friends, look, no matter your feelings on COVID-19 or anything, they're going to use the tech to surveil us, and they're going to use it for things other than COVID-19. If you've been trying to tell friends that and they've gone, ridiculous. Well, now you have a mainstream media article you can send them and say, I know you care that what the AP says, because the AP is neoliberal garbage. So I bet you'll care about this article. Well, now you have one you can send to them. All right, folks, the rest of this live streams at rumble.com/Lee Camp, rumble.com/Lee Camp. Should I say it one more time? Rumble.com/Lee Camp. I hope you will go over there and join me. It's completely free. You can be a part of the conversation and everything else. No, there's no paywall. However, I also hope that you will sign up at leecamp.net, which is my locals account. If you're already at Rumble, you just click that red button in the corner. It says locals, and that will take you straight to my page. Again, you can sign up for free. You just won't get the exclusive content, but you'll get a lot of stuff. So if you really don't have $1 a week, then sign up for free. It'll go up to $6 a month in the new year. So if you want, sign up now and you'll save that money. Also, anybody who signs up between now and the end of the year, I'm giving you a free digital copy of my book. Anybody who signs up as a paying member. So I'll give you a free digital copy of my book, Bullet Points and Punchlines, with an intro by Chris Hedges and a foreword by Jimmy Dore. And I hope you will check that out. So you'll get a free digital copy of that if you sign up as a paying member at leecamp.net before the end of the year. All right. The rest of this will be at rumble.com/Lee Camp. I'm going to get into U.S. life expectancy continues to go down, which says something about our government and about what it stands for, honestly. Whether it stands for us, whether it stands